showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
Okay, guys, what is the deal? What is going on? Thank you guys for being here. One more episode, one more week in the can. Well, kind of partially in the can. I'm getting it, rolling as far as recording this. But for some reason, my mic is coming in extra hot. It is peaking, and I have no idea why. This microphone is peaking. I'm looking at my levels. It's in the red. I'm talking normal right now, just like regular to you guys. And my mic is peaking. So yeah, I know. I'm turning down the gain. Let me turn down the input volume in the audio settings on the computer. And I'm coming in hot. And I did this before, right? I turned down the gain years ago. I was messing with it. Something was happening. I was peaking. And I turned down the input volume. And then when I turned down the input volume, it sounded kind of fine. I obviously heard a lowering in the audio recording, the input recording through the microphone. The audio was coming in lower, but then when I actually did a playback in my software, I had to put a gain on the audio because it was too low. So in order to avoid that, I just stopped messing with it. I was like, all right, fine. I'm not going to lower the gain, and then I have to tweak it in the software program. And by the way, I use Final Cut Pro. I record in Reaper. And I actually do the audio setup in Final Cut Pro. Because of the fact that there is a video component to it, at some point I'm going to do like the video part on the YouTube channel. You're right. But for right now, it's like, it is what it is. I'll just do a video backdrop. And I'm not too crazy about showing my face. I mean, you guys, I've already shown my face already on my Instagram, on my social media. So everybody knows, get an idea of what I look like. So I don't have to like be on camera all the time. And it's just, I said it before, I don't even know why we're so involved with adding video to audio. When it's an audio, it's a podcast, it's audio only. But we're living in a video age. YouTube, I guess people want to see faces while they're listening to someone talk. And the funny thing is, I listen to a lot of my podcasts, or a good portion of my podcasts, through YouTube. I do listen on iHeart. I do listen to it on other platforms as far as podcasting is concerned. But a lot of it is through YouTube. And I'm listening in the car, and I just, let it play. Even though I'm not watching it, I just listen to it while my phone is in the cup holder. So, go figure, right? But, at some point, I guess I'll add, the video portion, and I'll do it through I record through an iMac computer. I bought this joint in like 2020. So I kind of got the latest one. I wish I could waited, because I see the new iMacs now and they look like iPhones, but it is what it is. What I'm about to update the RAM too on this thing, but this is going to serve me for another 7 to 10 years, however long, because that's how much I had a PowerBook, a Mac PowerBook before, and it was a 17-inch, and around the time the life that I've had my Mac PowerBook, Apple decided to discontinue the 17 inches. So I was like, I'm not going to be messing with I'm not messing with no 15 inch, because my fingers is already big enough already. You see my big ass hands trying to type on, like, it's like Hulk trying to type on in Marvel when he's the smart Hulk, and he's It don't make no sense. So I was like, I am not getting another MacBook Pro. So much for that. I got an iMac. So I'm doing everything through my iMac. And, and guess what, folks? I still didn't mess with my microphone. And I still didn't change that thing. And I'm having like ticks on it. So I'm kind of like behind as far as recording for this podcast. Because I'm like, I'm getting so tired. So I'm in between whether I could get this and I record through a Blue Yeti. And I love the Blue Yetis. They sound so crisp. I just love Blue Yetis. But this one that I bought is as everybody knows from the previous show. If you're a listener, I hear that tick, and I played it back, and I hear the tick. Sometimes it just goes away, and then then I don't hear it anymore. But now I'm dealing with my mic over. It's like it's extra sensitive. It is peaking, and I have no idea why, and I don't want to lower the audio too much, and then I have to like layer up my audio in FCP. And here's a little trick. Sometimes if I raise the audio, right, the gain on the track, on the audio track, it'll bring it up, but it's still, to me, not where it should be, because I also got my audio levels on the right hand side of the software. So what I do is that I just double up the audio. I double up the audio, put another track underneath, synchronize it so it sounds the same, and I put a gain on that audio. So on my audio one, it's peak. It has gain on it, and then the double clip I put right underneath the main audio clip, and I put gain on that, and then it sounds good. But why should I do all that? I shouldn't have to be, having to do all that. It should just be as it is. So if I can't fix this issue, oh my God, it's crazy. If I can't fix this issue, then I'm going to have to just buy a whole new mic. And I think it's not going to be, it probably, the reason why I like the Blue Yeti, because it sounds so good through a USB connection, because of course in the back, it's what do you call it? The USB 3 or something like that. And then, and it goes through the what do you call it? The 3.5 or 3 millimeter, whatever the case may be, into the microphone. So, I like it because I could plug directly into the computer and record my joint. It's just that simple. Because then, you have to get the, what do you call it? Not the adapter. I forgot what the thing was called, but you could actually have a USB and plug it into the, I forgot what that thing is, the Rode, whatever. And you could plug that into your computer. So you could do the gain control and all that. If you want to plug in 2 mics, 3 mics, I forgot the name of that thing. I forgot the name of the Rode. I did all that research before when I wanted to set up my whole podcasting thing. And I was like, nah, you know what? Instead of just buying all that, let me just plug directly into the computer. And I don't see it as a problem. Anyway, that's my little technical thing as far as running through how I do this show. But it's funny. Let me go. 1, and I still hear the clicks. Anyway, yeah. So now I'm gonna have to think about having to buy like a dope podcast mic with it as USB, and then I have to get oh my God. So I don't know. I bought this through Amazon. Maybe I have to get the Podcast Pro joint and it, step it up and get a little bit more. I just love the Blue Yeti. It's just so convenient as far as podcasting is concerned. So this is not the top of the line Blue Yeti. I think I bought this joint for like $100. The Blue Yeti Pro, I think it's like $250 or something. I don't know. It'll be sad for me to have to buy a new Blue Yeti, and I don't know. Anyway, what's up, folks? What's the deal? I would try to keep this calm. I'm drinking tea too, so I don't peak this thing out too crazily. So I'll just try to talk in a normal tone and not get too excited. And everybody tell me I talk loud anyway, so it is what it is. So let me just close things out. Okay, I'm your host, Nova Phoenix, on GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio, and I thank you guys again for listening to this show. I'm gonna talk to you guys. I said, and I try to not to get too excited and not peak this thing out even more, because I just heard the overmodulation, it topping off. So yeah, so let's just get into the show now. Let's get this started. Yummy herbal tea. So we're just getting past this COVID thing. And I'm so glad. And I was kind of like in the house, in my crib for a couple of weeks, and we're just getting past it. Surprisingly, I did not get it. I took another test, another rapid. I did not get it. I don't know how this happened. My kid got it, my wife got it, and then I just turned. I just didn't get it. But I was handling my business, going around and going outside, because I was the only one able to, because everybody was in the bed. And my kid was just trying to wait this thing out. And I had a mask on. And the wild thing about it is there are people that I can't understand. There was the anti-maskers, how it's happening in Ottawa and Canada. I think there's more in terms of the vaccine, what people are complaining about up there, having to take the vaccine. But seeing the videos of people not wanting to wear the mask and everything like that, it just crazy how, even though I understood the impact of COVID-19, even when it started in 2020, and coming up to this point now. Sorry, let me put this joint on. Put my phone on buzzer. Now, coming up to this point now, I always respected how COVID-19 affected the United States and people around the world. But what really got me, what was really the thing that got me, is when it actually hit home. Good thing it wasn't the serious kind where people would have to get intubated and hospitalization, but it did hit people. Did hit my folks here right up under this roof. And, I'm going out wearing a mask, and I never understand why people would fight, even though if they didn't get it and they had family members that got it, or if they didn't get it, how come they just can't respect the fact that all you have to do is put on a mask when you're in someone else's establishment or someone else's, business, whatever the case. And I never understood it. Why are people tripping over material that they have to cover their mouth and nose over? And then, the think about, the ailments and having to go through, seeing it affect someone in my family, and to go out there, what my thought was, I don't want anybody else to get it. I don't care if you're bedridden and it's not that bad, or across the spectrum, whether it's the least type of hit of COVID-19 to where you have to be hospitalized. I don't want anybody to get it. I don't even want myself to get it. I don't care. You know what I mean? So I just never understand how people could be so brainwashed to feel like this is violating, quote, I'm using air quotes, violating their rights. And you're trying to protect other human beings. You're trying to protect the elderly. You're trying to protect the children. You're trying to protect your peers and your colleagues and everyone. And the fight, the literal gut-busting, sweat-drenching, blood-curdling yells and screams not to wear a mask is beyond my logic to understand. And, walking down the street with the mask on, that's all I was concerned with. I'm like, I don't want anybody to get it. So, I'll just wear this joint until everything I feel is past, where I'm at. So, yeah, it's just bananas. And I think a lot, the power of media, man, I tell you, media is great. Media is entertaining. Media is informative. But media is also a very useful tool to sway the minds of the masses. And I thought COVID was supposed to bring people together. It was the exact opposite. COVID split, well, not COVID in itself, but what was happening split people apart. I mean, where people are literally screaming in each other's faces, hurling insults at each other, willing to fight, I want to say to the death, but defend themselves, actually getting physical over this COVID thing. Man, it's amazing, man. I swear. Common sense, logic, impartiality, objectivity, critical thinking, all of these are key into navigating through this, not just with COVID, but just common sense in life where you go about doing things, man. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's wild. Dave Chappelle, man. Dave, my man Dave. So last week I was talking about how Dave was fighting against, everybody knowing, in Yellow Springs, and Dave was at a city council meeting or a county council meeting, whatever you want to call it, how he was disagreeing with the affordable housing that was coming in, and some people were happy about that. And, you know, I was just wondering why Dave Chappelle, a man like himself, would be against affordable housing, and just trying to have an open mind of why that was happening, comparing how it is in Section 8 in New York City. And you know, I was checking out. Everybody knows who Touré is. Touré's been a journalist for a long time. He's on MTV, wrote for a lot of different magazines, such and so forth. He has his own podcast himself, but he's on Twitter. I follow him. I mean, he actually had a tweet where it was, you know, I guess he was caught in the same thing, but, you know, he put out a tweet thread how, you know, the news was being funny on how they were actually telling the story on how Dave Chappelle felt about affordable housing. And of course, they replayed that video. That's something that they just kept replaying. I think it was about a minute long. So you would get a wrong idea of what Dave Chappelle felt was happening in his town in Yellow Springs. So Dave Chappelle hit up some folks in media, and Touré hit some folks up in media. And it was more so on the developers. The developers had plans that was just straight up dog poo that Dave Chappelle and a lot of other people weren't feeling. Now, this developer was called Oberer, O-B-E-R-E-R. Oberer, they wanted to build 143 homes on 52 acres of land that they bought. And they wanted to keep it at 143 homes, because if they built any more, they would, because it's in the plan, they would have to build cheaper homes. They did not want to do that. So Oberer gave Yellow Springs town 1.5 acres out of the 52 acres of land that they had. And they said at some point they could build affordable housing. Not that it was written in stone or it was contracted. It was just a plan to build cheaper homes. But, you know how the plans happen to turn out. So Yellow Springs folks were upset, right along with Dave Chappelle. And Yellow Springs folks, that one of the things that they had a problem with the new development, because Yellow Springs folks are very environmentally aware of what's happening in their communities. And I know the development that was coming was going to tear down trees. It was going to take away the natural environment off of the animals that were a part of that particular area in Yellow Springs. And they did not want to destroy that. And in order to build this development, they were going to cut down plenty of forestation of the forest and the trees and the bush, and displacing all these animals where that area is their natural habitat. It was also an issue of gentrification. A long time ago, they were saying that the black population in Yellow Springs was 30%. Now it is down to 12. It's down to 12, and that was a big thing that they had an issue with, gentrification. Now, it's just not gentrification in terms of the 12% of the black folk that was in there. But in general, the life economy is declining. The life economy is declining. They're saying houses in Yellow Springs is about $319,000. These developers, when they were going to build these new homes, were going to push these people out and just skyrocket the prices of the property in the area. So the people that's been there for a long time wouldn't be able to benefit from any of these new things that were going to come into Yellow Springs. That is concern, not just in Yellow Springs, that's a concern of what's going on in a lot of different cities, a lot of different areas. So Dave Chappelle decided to block that as far as the quote unquote affordable housing Oberer wanted to put in. He wanted to stop that development. He didn't want them, the developer, to continue to pursue and try to fulfill the objective where a lot of people in the community did not want. So shout out to Touré for actually digging in, because a lot of people like myself, and I said that on my Twitter, believed a lot of the things, the headlines that was flying around to try to make Dave Chappelle feel like some sort of, despicable classist, if you want to throw that in there, individual that really didn't care about what was happening, and he was but I was just trying to be objective. I'm like, whoa, before we try to cast some sort of blame on Dave Chappelle, let's really try to see from, and with an open mind. But Teray definitely reached out to this, to Michael Harriet, folks at the Griot, and also he reached out to the people in Yellow Springs. If people want to get clarity on the story, and it's funny how a lot of times it has to do with clicks. You throw out these stories. It's not about what's the truth. It's about getting the most clicks. And when you put Dave Chappelle affordable housing, and you had a nice little clip that you can attach to the article and show that Dave Chappelle is an animal, he's a monster. Oh my God, he's such a monster. That's going to get a lot of clicks. So if you want to get the real news, you talk to Cheryl Durgans. She's a lifelong resident of Yellow Springs, and she's also the editor of the paper down there, and she could give more clarity on the situation. Now, I'm saying she does not know Dave Chappelle. It's not like they buddy and they drink beers every Friday whenever he's in town. But to honestly get an objective look at what's happening down in Yellow Springs, I encourage people to get in touch or check out the Yellow Spring paper. Maybe they have a website online that you can go to, but definitely reach out to Cheryl Durgans, and she could definitely send out an email or a tweet or an Instagram live post or whatever, and just actually tell people the real deal of what's happening in Yellow Springs and all these developers that wants to come in here. So shout out to Teray for really reaching out to those folks down there. So big ups. And I told him that I would correct it on my podcast, because I know how I spoke about it last week. I just want, for the people that do listen to me or listen on a weekly basis, I make mistakes too. And as I said before, it happens. You read an article, you read 2 articles, 3. I get caught up in the mix, and you think that's what the story is. And, like a lot of people, you just take that headline and you take that article and you run with it. And then when you actually do digging, and that's what journalists are supposed to be doing, journalism, you're supposed to reach out, make calls, verify, corroborate all these things with other witnesses and people. And, that's how investigative journalism is not what it was. A lot of the investigative journalism was kind of routed out, when when journalism became more of a business and controlling the message that comes out of these institutions that we have to say, that we have to consider them. NBC, CNN, even local news is no different from that, because local news, they have a script. They got to answer the bosses. So, you can say, well, no, don't you? Hey, listen, I'm a man that does a podcast. And when the time is right, and I can get staff and I can get people to do some fact checking and all those things, as I said before, I will do that. But right now, I love talking to you guys in the space that I'm in now. And when it is right and ready, we will have all those things in motion and really get to what's going on. I don't want to be run-of-the-mill guy that's just talking mess on air and just trying to get people excited, whatever. I do believe in fact checking and information and the real deal facts to bring to you guys in whatever way possible. So if I see something in the future and it sounds a little fishy, sounds a little out of character, I will try to throw in a little extra to say, hey man, this is what's being said, but it's possible it could be this. And I think a lot of reasons to me why this story was spun the way it was around Dave Chappelle, because Dave Chappelle is kind of, I wouldn't say enemy number one, but he did a show that a lot of people didn't agree with, a lot of people in the LGBT community didn't agree with, and they probably, Dave Chappelle is a black man that says what he wants to say as a comedian, and just as a citizen of the United States, you can say what he wants to say, his opinion. And a lot of people wanted him to bend down and kind of capitulate to their disagreement of how he presented himself on his stand-up. And he wasn't. He was like, hey, this is my show. This is what I did. And, take it as it is. It's my show. That's what Netflix paid me the big bucks for. So he did what he did, and sometimes when you see something like that, there are people, they're just bad actors. There are people that work within these institutions that they see something and they'll bend it to whatever way that they want to cast a bad light on Dave. So, and that's just what it is. I mean, you know what I mean? If you're going to say your piece, you're going to say your piece, whether you're a comedian or not, and there's going to be people that disagree with you and they're going to be like, I don't like that guy over there. Something happens and all of a sudden this huge story is spun on you saying you did something wrong. So, that's the reason why I think that, Dave Chappelle was that story was spun on him like that. So yeah, whatever. Yo, so damn, I'm peeking there. I am peeking way out of it. It's crazy. So shout out to my guy. I actually talking with some folks, some dev people over there in different countries, just to get a roundabout when we actually get to our seed round for Lyfeblood.com and getting this mobile app on the way and redesign of the site. And really doing the marketing implement the marketing strategy that I want to do with these folks. And I also spoke to a marketing company the other day, and really just to lay out a preliminary how I want to do things, because I'm kind of like that. I look at what's going down the road and like to set my pieces like a chessboard. Okay, that's set. So when things actually come into play, it's not a far reach. I don't have to go. I could just pick up a phone and say, hey, let's get going. So I was speaking to a marketing company the other day, and real cool, and we'll see what happens. So, but I like to shout out Oleksiy, my man Oleksiy Simbal, man. My man's Ukrainian. I met him at a tech conference, matter of fact, the New York Tech conference that was happening in New York. Real good guy. And sadly, he went back home, but sadly, a lot of things is going on with Ukraine. I spoke about it on the show. Ukraine, from the articles and what I can read, that this thing is just a lot of, chest beating and chest pumping, and as far as Russia stepping into Ukraine, and what was going on like that, and the Ukrainian prime minister was saying, don't worry about it, this is just a lot of talk, there's nothing that's going on, but apparently there is a lot of things going on. So I got to reach out to my man Oleksiy, and he's like, hey man, we're hanging in there with the Ukrainian folks, and not really going too crazy about it, not getting too worried about it. They've been there before. But he says if anything does go down, that they're able to relocate to Poland or some other areas so they can continue business. And it kind of hurts as far as where his company is coming from. Yeah, it's my man Oleksiy, Moby Dev. It's a company, MOBIDEV, Moby Dev. And it's crazy just having to see people having to go through what they're going through. Over there, what my man Oleksiy is going through. And Joe Biden's national security team is advising Russians that attack is imminent. They're saying they can launch, not advising Russians, they're saying that Russians are going to launch an attack at any time. The foreign ministers from the G7 saying that there's no reduction in Russian forces. They're kind of building up, and there are certain monitors that saying there's over 1,400 explosions is happening in the breakaway regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, I guess. Donetsk and Luhansk, that's in the eastern Ukrainian or southern eastern region of Ukraine, and that they're saying that they're actual Russian, what's the word I'm looking for, sympathizers or separatists that that agree with what's going on over there, and they're actually mobilizing women and children to evacuate in Russia. They actually do. There's some video out of families jumping on buses, and they're actually mobilizing the people out of there in case it gets even extra crazy. And then Ukraine believes Russia is faking pictures. Supposedly there are pictures of shells that are coming from the Ukrainian. They're mercenaries that has arrived in eastern Ukrainian that stage provocations in collaboration with the Russian forces. Ukraine is investigating these things. It could be a false flag. It may not. Who knows? I don't know. We're here from the comforts of the United States of America, and a lot of the conflicts that go on, we kind of watch it on TV like it's a movie. But unfortunately, there are human beings that are being victims and targets of this, and it's important that we kind of stay aware of what's actually going on around the world and how America plays in this. And I'm kind of upset, man. I'm really upset because we spent all that talk. We were talking, saying, let's get out of Afghanistan. There's no reason. America was in Afghanistan for what, to 10 years or so? Of course, they were saying, look, you're not going to spend all this money on personnel, tanks, guns, bombs, airplane flights, jet flights, and flyovers, and all this money that's on these resources without getting something out of it. We don't know what's going on. because we're working 9 to 5. We're working 10-hour days. We have to do things with our families and our kids, and we got to see grandparents and all these things. We don't know, but logistically, from a military point of view, you're not going to put out all those resources and assets if you're not getting something back in return. Who knows what's happening? But we're just getting out of Afghanistan. And everybody's like, okay, great. The reduction of troops, U.S. troops in there, we're back home. Let's settle some shit, because a lot of other people from the left side and the right side are saying, hey, listen, let's concentrate on our own issues. Why are we paying all this money to these foreign countries? Why are we over there? The left and right is saying that. That's one of the few things that the left and right agree on. And I still agree on that. I'm like, yo, what's going on over there? Because people don't know. People are going to say, why the fuck are we over there? Excuse me. So let me fix my chair. I got a busted chair too. Look at that. I got a busted chair too, man. I bought this chair and it was whatever. Anyway, so now all of a sudden, all the saber rattling is happening. Oh my God, I'm peeking. All the saber rattling is going on over there in Ukraine, and and all this is happening for the aggressions that are taking place, the buildup of troops and military personnel and equipment and tanks all along the Ukrainian border, and people are getting evacuated, and the G7 is trying to figure out what's going on. Even VP Kamala Harris, she spoke at a Munich security conference, and they are planning to put crushing economic sanctions, export controls to, quote, target Russia financial institution and key industries, as well as, quote, target those who are complicit and those who aid and abet the unprovoked invasion in Ukraine. So the talks is going on, man. So is it a little chest pumping, a chest beating, or is this like really building out? Now, keeping in mind, we have averted nuclear war pretty good, all right? We haven't really been, messing around with nuclear armed countries, but Russia is a nuclear armed country. And to play with this, you got to be very careful, man. We avoided it in the Bay of Pigs back in the 60s with oh my God, why I can't remember, JFK, John F. Kennedy. If anybody knows that history at that point in time, that was a very stressful time for the United States when Russian subs were around in the Bay and around Cuba. If I'm correct, if I got that story, sorry if I'm a little rusty on it. But yeah, I've seen plenty of documentaries on that whole situation with the Bay of Pigs and Cuba and the Russian provoking war, and Russian subs were in U.S. territory, and JFK was very stressed, what was happening, and that was a tense moment because you don't know what's going to happen. And what does John F. Kennedy do? Does he let off those missiles and start nuclear war? It was a very tense time. So, human beings have been very careful in how we step forward in war with various countries around the world. And, there are other ways where you can exact some sort of pain or to achieve a certain objective when you're facing a country that's not kind of agreeing on what's going on. As I said, economics. That's one of the big things is, as they say, we're going through a Cold War with other countries, and espionage and all these other things are going to play. But now when you're going back into conventional war of troops and tanks and missiles and guns and RPGs and all these other things, you got to be careful when you step into that realm, because when you do step into that realm, you actually open the door to the possibility of nuclear war. And when you actually do step into that space and you play that game, a lot of egos come into play, a lot of male machismo come into play, all these war dogs, and like, yo, he's not gonna press me, It's kind of like a fight. It's kind of like a play fight. You know how you in the hood and you play fighting with somebody, and you see, dude A and dude B going at it, and they start playing slap boxing. I always knew from back in the day, I learned, even when slap boxing continued, I was like, when the next slap box event was happening, everybody knew that have seen this happen time and time and again. Somebody gonna go a little bit too hard, slap too hard. The other dude that's on the receiving end is gonna be like, I want to get my I gotcha. He's gonna go in, slap as equally hard or more. So the other dude takes it as a slight, and then all of a sudden it turns into a real scuffle. So even if this is saber rattling between the Russians and the United States, and this is something that they're just trying to, I don't know what their motivations are. Now, when you play that game, somebody's going to slap too hard, and then the other side is going to want to respond. And next thing you know, you're dealing with possible nuclear war. And all of a sudden, do we have people that in high office on the United States side and on the Russian side, do we have human beings that are smart enough to say, okay, we don't want to step into that space, because if we do, then we have to play with this game of yes or no with the nuclear option. And I hope not, because I tell you folks, the first place is going to go, I'm going to keep it real, is New York. All right. You step into that realm, they're not going over to places in Louisiana. They're not going to Mobile, Alabama. They're not going to Atlanta. They're not going to Texas. They're not going to Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Washington State. They're not going to any of these places. Wisconsin, Nebraska. There's no disrespect, but unfortunately there are no key points in order to destabilize the country from a hit. First place is gonna go. There's two primary areas, and we all know this. I'm not saying anything crazy. It's DC and New York. And where are we? We're in New York City. Okay. So let's try to have a little bit more calm. Let's try to step into some other areas where we can de-escalate the situation. Nobody wants anything crazy to go on. As I said, VP Kamala Harris did say that they're going to go into other options to try to sort this situation out. Let's just hope we solve this issue, because ain't no I want anything to go down on this side. All right. And it gets me thinking, no boots have ever been on the ground in the United States since what? What do you call it? The Revolutionary War, when the British came over. There's been absolutely no foreign feet on the ground in America. And that's not going to happen. What is going to happen is that freaking missile's going to be coming over on this side. That's how it's going to go down. So let's try to work this out. Let's try to have some calm minds, and let's work this on out. The next thing is Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff, man, everybody knows the Ponzi scheme fraudster. This guy, of course, in his Ponzi scheme was stealing millions of dollars from businessmen and celebrities. It was a big thing back in the day. Unfortunately, his sister and husband were found in a murder-suicide. They were in their 80s. Unfortunately. Crazy. So you remember after he was caught in jail, the shame was so bad. His son, his wife changed her name and fell into obscurity. It was some time ago. They actually did a follow-up on Madoff's wife, and she was just totally like, hey, she's in a small town, small area. She doesn't have millions of dollars. Whatever she has, she's just living out her life. She changed her name. It was so heavy to shame. So heavy to shame was Madoff's oldest son, Mark, died from suicide. Unfortunately, and I don't know. Hey man, he probably had nothing to do with it. A lot of times these situations happen. These well-off people live out their rich lives, and they find out that they got their money through unscrupulous ways, and the sons don't know, extended family don't know. All of a sudden it pops up. He's like, oh shit, you was doing all this? Hey, so he committed suicide, and the actually younger son as well died from, I think, mantle cell lymphoma cancer, but he blames his father for bringing on this lymphoma cancer. He died. So damn, that family is hit hard. Hey, that's that energy you put out, you will receive. I truly believe in karma. You put out bad energy, it will come right back to you. So I try to be as good as a person as I possibly could be, I don't want to swindle nobody, take anybody money, do anybody dirty, because you may get away with it in that small way, but it always come back, man. The bill always comes due. And your man Mordo from Doctor Strange, the bill always comes due. So yeah, man. And whatever incorrections that I've done, I try to correct it, because I want to put that good energy back into the universe and say, listen, yeah, but here's how I'm gonna correct it. You know what I mean? So that's crazy, man. Yeah, Star Trek. As I said before, I thought I talked about it before, but I guess I didn't. So Star Trek is coming back. Star Trek is going to come with a new sequel, man. JJ, all the cast is coming back. JJ Abrams come back, everything. So that's been in the works for quite some time, and they just talked about it just now. And I'm a Star Trek fan. I've been watching Star Trek when I was young. As far back as watching the reruns of the first Star Trek with Captain Kirk. And I was 11. The only time my mother kept, I was allowed to stay up late, that kept me awake at night, was 2 shows. For some reason, I was able to watch Honeymooners, the black and white Honeymooners, and I was able to watch the original 60s Star Trek. And those shows, you'll never forget seeing all the seasons every night. I think it was first it was Honeymooners and then Star Trek, whatever order, but I remember. But Star Trek, I was always been a fan. TNG, Deep Space Nine. As much as I think I saw a little bit of Voyager. I saw a little bit of all the other spin-offs afterwards. And of course, I'm seeing the movies. I know the original Star Trek back in the 80s. I saw that, of course. Wrath of Khan, all that. And then, of course, TNG was so good that they came out with their own in the movies. Didn't do too well, but nevertheless, they came out. And then, of course, with the new ones now, with the new Captain Kirk and all that. So, yeah, man. So they're coming out with a new Star Trek. And the only problem that I have with Star Trek, especially the latest iterations, I think J.J. Abrams is a great director. The cast, they do a great job. The CGI is always on point. Never have any problems. The only problem that I have with Star Trek, and I say, to be fair, it's just not the Star Trek's out now with this new cast, but it's also the TNG ones. It's the scripts, man. The scripts are just subpar. I think the scripts are subpar. You have Star Trek, what do you call it? The reboot, it was Star Trek Into Darkness. Let me see here. Is it Into Darkness? Yeah, Into Darkness. First, it was a Star Trek reboot. They came out in 2009. It was written by Robert Orci, Alex Kurtzman, and Damon Lindelof. I'm like, okay, cool. I looked up Into Darkness first, and it was who? Roberto Orci, Alex Kurtzman, and Damon Lindelof. So I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Let me go back. Oh, they wrote the first one too. I did enjoy the first Star Trek. I did in all sense, but I still felt that the script was weak. I didn't really connect with of course, the villain. I just like the fact that they redid Star Trek with an up-to-date modern look. You know what I mean? But then when they came with Into Darkness, of course they did Khan. I thought, again, that was cool because it was a replay of Khan from the Wrath of Khan back in the first with Captain Kirk. But I still don't think, I'm like, oh, nah, bro, this is not it. And then they came with the other Star Trek when they had, what's his name in there? My man, what's my man name? Oh, man, they actually did 3, man. That's the wild part. They did do 3. I'm like, wait, I know they did more Star Trek with Idris, right? Idris Elba. Star Trek Beyond, it came out in 2016. I think out of all of those, that had the weakest script. I'm like, I didn't understand it. I'm like, really? This is it? This is what you're doing? And of course, it was like a whole list that I had. I was writing down, I watched that movie like 3 or 4 times. Because the fact that I just liked, it was just great CGI. It was fantastic. And they did it again. But then the scripts, it was just, listen, I say J.J. Abrams. I don't know who, I don't know if these are your peoples or whatever. I think you should get some new writers, all right? Because if Marvel can do it, if Marvel can really come down and put the meat and potato, the magic into the movies now, and then you have this whole Marvel universe that's all interconnected, whether it's the solo movies, you have the Avengers all together, and they all, I mean, look, if they can do it, if matter of fact, let's even give props to DC, because you know sometimes they really fuck this shit up. I don't even know where they're going. The DC, literally, I don't know where they're going. Shit is all over the place. It's just massive, just confusion. But out of that mess, they do come up with the Joker. All right, I think the new Batman is gonna be, you know, dope with Robert Pattinson. It looks like it. Yo, put the work into Star Trek. If they could do this, is comic book characters, man, and a lot of these movies are up for Oscars. I mean, the Joker, for Christ's sakes. So, you know, get some good script writers, make a really dope, heartfelt, deep, compelling script for Star Trek. It deserves that. Gene Roddenberry deserves that. He created it back in the day. Get a real dope script, folks. Man, please. Roberto Orci, Alex Kurtzman, and Damon Lindelof. You had 3 dudes, 3 minds, 3 brains putting together a script for these freaking. Matter of fact, let me see who wrote Beyond. Let me see here. Let's see who wrote Beyond. Who wrote Beyond? Written by. Oh wow. So okay, these 3 dudes came out with the first one, the reboot and the Into Darkness. Now this one, Star Trek Beyond, was written by Simon Pegg and Doug Jung. Oh man, and yeah, that was just bad. Oh man, that was just bad. Yeah, oh my God, Simon Pegg, really? I forgot, Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg actually played Scotty in Star Trek. They gave it to him to write the script. Great actor. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I love this guy, Simon Pegg. Love it. But yeah, if he wrote it, don't let him write it again. No. Let's move on to something else. All right. Even speaking of movies, Raised by Wolves. You already know I already don't like Raised by Wolves. So I went again and I punished myself to watch the first 3 episodes of Raised by Wolves. Right? Of course, a new season. I got to see if they got new episodes. And as I said before, and I'm gonna keep it real, Grace, I love you, Grace. As a movie critic, I think you're very talented. As all the stuff that you've done, you've hit the nail on the head in a lot of movies. But I saw your feeling about Raised by Wolves. I don't know why you like this. Raised by Wolves, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I mean, remember I told you they play father and I was going to see if they play father? And so they did. Yo, this guy came out with weakness. Yo, this dude came out like, yo, dog. He was like, he came out. I'm going to say this, spoiler, if you don't want to hear it. All right, it's a small part, right? It opens up with them coming into this new encampment, this camp or whatever like that, right? Because they got to the other side. Because you remember they was running away from what? Okay. So they found this camp and they come out and they're like, mother and father's like, oh man, this is a new place. Okay, cool. Bah, 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 bah. And at that moment, mother turns to father and say, hey, father, you still feel the same way from me and everything, all that stuff you told me before? And what does father say? He says well, you know, I don't feel like that no more. But, you know, it is possible I can still off myself. It's in the bag. It's in the pocket. So if ever I feel this way, I could just, you know, cut my wrist and just end it. No lie. He didn't say that. I'm embellishing. But he actually was like, yeah, I don't feel like that. But if I do, if it comes up, it's very possible. It can happen. I'm like, you start off the show with father saying that. Oh, my God. And then I'm not going to give away the series. There were some things that I had problems with. I'm like, okay, why is he able to do that? What is going on here? Why is that happening? Why the F? Oh my God, it just hits me. This goddamn serpent snake. What is the significance of this stupid thing? Why? Why is this here? Why is this here? I don't get it. I don't get the fucking serpent. Oh yeah, and the other thing is, which I'm not giving away the show, The whole show. Campion and the goddamn kids. Oh man, Campion in this one. He ready to drive his own vehicle. His voice is mad deep. The dude looked like he ready for college. I'm like, so what happened from the last show to this season? Now, obviously, I understand in real life when you have kids cast in a movie, they are going to grow up. They're gonna go through changes, puberty. Their voice is gonna get deeper. Their face is gonna change. But maybe I missed it because I'm already soured with the show. But it does not explain the times difference. Campion was a little boy in the first season. Now in this season, Campion is damn near a grown-ass man. So we're not going to talk about this? We're not going to talk about the change? Like, what happened? They didn't touch on that. Son, really? You don't talk about that? You don't talk about that. And I think they mentioned a little something, like you mentioned his voice. But so, of course, if there was a voice change, a lot of time has passed. How do you not explain that? What were the kids doing at the time? Like, they don't talk about it. Oh man, the show got, I mean, it's, I think the show had so much potential. It had a lot of potential. Ridley Scott was involved with it. Ridley Scott loves his androids with the milky blood. You know how the Ridley Scott is. It had great potential, but it turned into this sour ass art piece, motion picture art piece that you think should play in some sort of art gallery. Other than that, I don't understand this joint. I really don't. One more thing. Go ahead and see that Kanye Yeezus thing. I had my own issues with Kanye Yeezus, but the documentary was hot. It's on Netflix. It's Genius, or some play on the word genius. His name, I forgot. Genius or whatever. It was good because this is what I remember Kanye to be. When Kanye first started, over 18 years ago, he was the underdog. He was a producer. And people just wanted to hear him produce. And he's like, I want to rap. And he's partly why he was making beats, because he wanted to rap and show. But it's a great story. Everybody loves the underdog. I don't like who he is today. He still makes great music. I'm never going to take that away from him. But him as a person, the choices that he make, whether it's because of his bipolar disorder or whatever the case may be, I don't really dig it. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. So, but it's a dope documentary. I encourage people to see it because you'll see early Kanye and him. Confidence is key, man, because there's a lot of people are not going to believe you. And the only person that's going to believe in you more so than any other person is who? You. You're going to believe in yourself. And this has nothing to do with your quality that you put out. Now, of course, there's a lot of trash music. There's a lot of trash shit that comes out there. But even when you're a person that has truly a talent that obviously this person had, there are a lot of people that supported even Kanye back then. But the key people that he wanted for them to be on his side weren't there. And it took a long time, especially when it came with Rockefeller and Dame and Jay and everybody. But certain people didn't want to hear it. So it has nothing to do with what you put out. It has everything to do with people's indifference. And that's just what it is. People are going to like you. People are not going to like you. And people are going to be indifferent. And there were people that clearly saw the talent of Kanye and what he does in production, for them not to give him a chance. Hey, okay, you did this for Jay. Let me hear what you got. Oh, okay, cool. Want to hear what you... No, people didn't do that. The one part when he went into... I think it was he went to Def Jam. I was there where Rockaway was at, and then he's talking to the marketing person. I don't know why he's talking to the secretary, but he got ahead to play his music. He was like, "What? You hear this?" And she just looking at him like, "I'm in the middle of this." But he wanted to share his passion with whoever was in that office, man, and he did. So. Check out his doc, man. I can't wait for the next one to see the progression and just to see his mother and him just vibing and, talking with each other. She gave him a lot of strength. Wish Donna was still alive, because I think if Donna was still around, she would have definitely been his foundation, his grounding that he needs. Right now, he's just all over the place. Unfortunately, the truth is, when you get to that level of celebrity, you really don't. It's rare to have people that are going to tell you the real deal on what's happening in your life, especially if you kind of deviate from the path and you get into some craziness. Hopefully you have people that are going to tell you, hey man, Kanye, you tripping. This is not the way to go. You got to do it like this. Hey man, you have your own life, but you have to understand how you're presenting yourself and how you're being perceived. Yeah, and that's kind of true. Perceived and received by the people you're telling. And it's important that you have some sort of grounding, because if you don't have that grounding, you're all over the place and you look crazy. And I think if his mother was still alive, Donda, she would have definitely been his grounding to bring him back into the fold of sanity. And you see him being displayed now, but yeah, I encourage people. Hopefully my man's finds some sort of center, man, with, maybe he needs to go to Africa, like how Dave went to Africa, maybe go to Tibet or someplace. He needs to get out of this Hollywood shit and decompress and just get away from this toxic surroundings, man, because when you keep yourself in it all the time, this is going to happen. You're going to slowly deteriorate into madness. And that's what happens to a number of celebrities, because they're not willing to pull themselves out of it. It happened to Martin Lawrence. It happened to Richard Pryor. It happens to a lot of people, man. Even with what's her name? With oh my God, what's the singer name? She kind of just, what was her name? Pop singer. She was kind of screaming at people like, yo, listen, I'm really dealing with something right now, and Britney Spears. And nobody was listening because they were treating Britney Spears like a cash cow, and to the point where she had to shave her head. And you see, obviously, she was screaming out for help, and this is the only way she could get people's attention. And instead of milking her like a cow, the people that were milking her were like, oh my God, something's wrong with Britney. And, then people that really care was like, oh, wait a second, Britney's trying to tell us something. That's what happens to that level of celebrity when look at you. You're one person. You got to do 100 shows in a year. You got to talk to all the people, talk to all these people in press and radio and magazines. And if you get past all the lipstick and the mascara and the dresses, and even for the men, and you get past all the hype and all these things, you're still a human being at the end. You're still a human being at the end, going through all of this stress and being crowded by so many people that wants to split you apart in 50 different ways. You're one person. So it's important that people kind of pull away from this madness, try to find their center, find their grounding, and then if you so wish, go ahead. And that's why a lot of celebrities, the celebrities with the right frame of mind, don't live in LA. They work in LA, but they don't live in LA. They live in, look at Dave Chappelle. He lives in Ohio. A lot of people live in like farms and in the middle America and different places. It was like, they just fly to LA and they fly on out, because they know if they just immerse themselves continuously in that toxic environment of celebrity and people coming after you, this person wants this, that person wants that, you lose your sense of self. You know what I mean? So go see Kanye Joy. Cryptocurrency, man. A lot of talk with cryptocurrencies going on right now. There was an article that came out, I think in Forbes, and they're saying that cryptocurrency is going through a serious panic because of an NFT hack. They're down 5%. I think cryptocurrencies right now, it was like 40 something. I could go look in my Coinbase because I'm a proud owner of several coins. Let me see if I can find this joint. Right now, Bitcoin is at 39,000. So it climbed back up. It was like 38 before, but it's climbed up a little bit. So, look, there are people out there that's just going to try to poison the well, of the new technologies of cryptocurrency and NFTs and, the NFT market and people, buying all these 8-bit 8-bit images and, you know, all these things. Listen, it's a threatening technology, and they're going to do anything they can to destroy it. Now, I was a part of a Twitter space, and I can't remember the host, but they were talking about, you know, Bitcoin and where we are with it and how we're going to go forward and what we need to change and what things are kind of like insane and how we're going to move forward. And, you know, afterwards, after this, I think it was about an hour talk of this Twitter space, there had some people that created, you know, people were saying, you know, thank you for being part of the space. But there are folks that jumped in on the thread and it just really, they were destroying. It was so negative. Now, these people, I know they of course, I you know, I don't want to call them, you know, villains against cryptocurrency and NFT market. But, you know, it's good to have your own critique of a particular tech. But when you're constantly going at it, I'm like, when you have this undying energy, this drive to tear something down, and that's all you're saying about a new tech that's being introduced to people and to business, I start looking at you a certain way. Nothing is ever 100%. There's always going to be flaws and errors and mistakes in any new technology that's introduced to the masses. But because that its application in its totality has a greater benefit to the masses than the actual errors that's built in, flaws on the human being side that's built into the tech, then all of a sudden it's a necessary thing to have. It's a great thing to have. It's like the coming of the car. Like, of course, after the horse and buggy, you know, we had the 4-wheel machine that could take us from point A to point B in a shorter period of time, and we didn't have to worry about feeding horses and them getting tired or getting hurt or whatever the case may be. It was a technology that was necessary for society at its time. A lot of people lost work, but a lot of people gained work. A lot of people chased after Henry T. Ford and say, hey, man, I could do my own thing. But that's what comes with technology and innovations that changes how human beings interact in a way that we do when we're going about a business, our personal business, our professional business, and how it's just changed society as a whole. So if the benefits outweigh the errors that's overlooked in the design of the technology, then it's a necessary tech to have. Now, there are people that were on this Twitter space that were saying, "Oh, it's terrible. There's so many bad actors in the technology. All this fraud. It's unsustainable. It's environmentally unfriendly. And the blockchain is not. What am I going to get with this?" I mean, this is actually all the talk these people were saying. These two gentlemen, and I appreciated their opinions. And of course, I responded like, "Well, you know, there's going to be errors. It's you know, that's going to happen. Nothing, as I said to you before, a couple of seconds ago, you're going to have those errors, but we're going to work towards trying to fix those errors that was overlooked, and we're going to try to get out the people that's going to try to be fraudulent or try to poison the well by doing rug pulling and stealing people's liquidity. We're going to deal with that as users within this new environment, this digital environment. But they were just totally destroyed. They were like, nah, it's not going to do anything. That's why you need the government to regulate it. And then, well, you know, you kind of take away the philosophy of decentralization by trying to have the government regulate it. As soon as you have a law that's trying to, control the behavior of people in a decentralized digital community, then you miss the point of what decentralization is. It's up to the people to figure out the issues, the problems. It's up to the people if they want to design NFTs and sell it on the NFT market. It's up to the people if you want to introduce a new coin, whether it's Ethereum or Litecoin or Bitcoin or any one of Decentraland or Cardano, any one of these coins out there. It's up to the people to build in the design that's going to improve it. Look, Ethereum came out. People didn't like the gas fees. It was super expensive. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. It was beautiful when it was introduced as the alternative to Bitcoin and what it offered. But as soon as people started using it and they got, you know, let's say, I can't even say neck deep. I mean, they were literally ankle deep, calf deep. And people were like, wait a second. This is too crazy. These gas fees are ridiculous. So all of a sudden you had Solana come out saying, hey, we are introducing a new redesign to the technology. The gas fees are not going to be so crazy heavy on you, and it's going to be quicker when you actually transact using Solana, right? So people moved over into the NFT market in Solana, and they're trading their souls for it. And so, well, their soul coins. So, I mean, listen, there's going to be something that's going to be improvement. It's going to go beyond Solana. It's going to be something else. On the new blockchain, it's going to be a new way they're going to do, instead of proof of work and proof of stake is, if I'm correct, they got a new one, is a proof of time, I think. And I have to look into that. Where they're going to actually improve the way, how the timing of the transactions, how the transactions are actually processed within the blockchain to make it better, to make it quicker, to make it more efficient. I want to say efficient, more secure, more secure from fraudulence. We are going to get there. But then when you actually, when you continuously try to knock something down, it makes me think either you're trying to get in on something before me, take advantage of a good situation, or number two, I start thinking of ulterior motives that you have going on. Because if that's all you're doing, you're not adding any solutions. If all you're doing is talking about the problem, because of course, when you introduce a problem, when you present the problem to a community or to yourself, what's the next obvious step? Coming up with a solution. That's how things go when humans are presented with a problem. It's like, okay, listen, I need to get from this elevation to that elevation. How am I going to do it? I could climb the rock face. That's one way of doing it. No, the rocks are too crazy. Okay, maybe you should throw a rope up there. Okay, it can't be the rope because there's nothing to tie off to and it's going to take my weight. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put these two things together. I'm going to tie that across ladder. Okay, I'm going to build a ladder. I'm going to build a ladder out of the wood I see there from the trees around, and I'm going to get to the higher. When human beings are presented with a problem, they'll come up with a solution. But then if all you're going to do is come by and say, how are we going to get there? How are we going to get up there? How are we going to get up there? We're never going to get up there. We're never going to get up there. We got to go around. We can't continue to go up. We got to go back down. I'm like, yo, shut up. And listen, because of this new technology and what it means for decentralization, there's a lot of people from the analog days that don't want to continue within this new digital world that was being created. Now, as long as it benefits them financially, that's fine. But we're entering a time where it's just not technology alone that's changing our society. It's also people that's having issues what's happening within our society within the last 50 years. Understand the issues of the problems that are being presented to us as far as being crushed financially, not having to be able to have any say so in how their communities are going about, and whether it's when in terms of economics, when it's in terms of social programs, when in terms of who they're actually listening to, when in terms of who they're voting for and actually trying to get something out of it, and they're not. That people are genuinely frustrated. So yeah, you're gonna have those first wave of people who are gonna say, "Oh man, there's money in this," and they're gonna see the financial benefit to it. They're gonna try to squeeze as much money out of it as possible, and we see that. We see those stories and people saying, "Oh man, this guy made $50 million off this NFT, and he just woke up one day and put a drawing on there, and all of a sudden, yo, we gotta jump in on it." So I understand it's kind of like the gold rush of 1848. Everybody's trying to jump in, trying to get that gold nugget out of that land. But people, when they see and they understand what blockchain is, when they understand decentralization and the how should I say, the wide open land of benefit that's going to come, and for lack of a better word, an advantage of what it brings to society and people, and what it means, and the variety of different applications that blockchain could be used to improve people's lives, so people can have power brought back into their circle, in their communities. People are like, wait a second, yeah, it's dope that I can sell an NFT. It's dope that there's Ethereum and Bitcoin, and what it means as far as building an independent financial system. But it's just more than that. It's just wide open, where now people are saying, hey, I can create something. I have the power to control it. I have the power within me and my community to actually I can actually be heard. I can actually have something to contribute to my community, and it benefit my community. And I know it's only going to improve the social health and wellness of my community. That's what I want. How else can I use this? How else can we improve this? Wait a second. And all these things are coming into play when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and an NFT market, especially when it comes to the music community. You know, we were still pretty much dealing with, music streaming, and everybody knows that music streaming is great for the industry, bad for the artist. Now, NFTs were introduced, and it's not just in terms of the art that you're selling, but also the music art. And people now can actually make some money, and they can be compensated properly for it. Instead of putting on music streaming and you getting 50,000 spins or whatever rotations for the month or for the week, and then when you look at what you're getting paid per stream, you're like, what? Now NFTs are saying, yeah, listen, we can actually mint this, put it out to the people, and if so, we can build into the NFT that I get a certain percentage. If you decide to resell it and it comes back to the owner of the NFT, that's beautiful. Imagine that if you the percentage that you're going to get when you multiply it 500,000 times, whatever that percentage is that you're getting, that's going to come back to the owner of that NFT. Man, it's a win-win situation. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Listen, of course, you're going to have the rug pullers are going to try to pull one over on you. You're going to try to steal liquidity in a variety of ways that they can, that everybody knows. And there's always going to be new ways to defraud something. Look, it's funny. This guy was saying all these things about the NFTs and cryptocurrencies, how it's terrible. And these two guys, and I'm like, wait a second. One guy was from Europe. Another guy was from the States. And I'll say, wait a second, you're going to critique the NFT market and cryptocurrencies and what it can actually do for the global community. And yet, and specifically the guy that comes from the United States, and this is an older gentleman. He's probably looked like, I see from this picture on Twitter, he's probably like in his 50s, 60s. So he kind of understands what happened 30 years ago. I'm like, wait a second. We went through the savings and loan fiasco, and everybody can look that up in savings and loan. There was a lot of, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I saw a documentary on it. I'm like, what? That was crazy. It was just greed involved with that. And people just doing like dastardly things to really try to squeeze money out of the whole savings and loan thing. It was terrible. You had the .com bubble. That was crashed the economy, and a lot of the .coms that actually were worth something, they kind of pushed through that, but there was a lot of fluff that was happening at the same time. You have the housing market crash, where a lot of the people that were buying 2 or 3 homes, and you had adjustable rate mortgages, and you had the people in the market was saying, and the retailer was saying, hey man, you could buy another house, don't worry about it, it's adjustable rate mortgage, you're gonna have it for $500 a month. And then all of a sudden, as they say, an adjustable rate mortgage, this thing skyrocketed after a couple of years to $2,000, $3,000 a month, and they couldn't afford it. So they had to freaking bow out and lose their home. That caused it. And of course, it's a lot more complicated with, when you're talking about derivatives and how all these loans or these toxic loans were dealt out. And they were kind of packaged collateral debt obligations and all these things. Go see Inside Job. Go see the documentary Inside Job, and it tells you everything from point A to point Z on how this whole housing market crashed. And you're going to look at it and be like, oh shit, yeah. And the whole thing as far as what's going on with the inflation it's terrible. So we're going, and the credit card fraud that's going on. What is going on? Let me just look this up. Let me just say here. Come on. It's credit card fraud yearly. And I would say your yearly annual loss. Let's see, $24.2 billion in 2018. $24.2 billion in 2018 due to payment fraud worldwide off the system that we're using today. And here we are, these people are complaining about, oh, what's wrong with cryptocurrency, NFTs, and all these things. And then all of a sudden, wait a second, and they're not going to talk about any. They can figure this out with cryptocurrency and NFT, but they can't figure this out with what's going on, all the fraudulence that's going on in the current economic system that we exist in today. We're not gonna pull that apart. So you're sitting in mud and you're gonna kick mud on other people. So I find that extremely, it's crazy what that is going on. So yeah, I mean, the system is not 100% perfect. Nothing is 100% perfect, but it's upon the people to do something to figure out the issues, the holes that are in the system, and button up those holes, and we move forward. But there's more benefit than the actual errors that these men were pointing out, supposed errors, that these men were pointing out, but they're being handled. But you cannot deny the fact that this new age that we're stepping into now, when it comes to these technologies, is not something that us as humans should explore. That's crazy. Imagine when somebody says, hey, who are those guys? Oh, those are the Wright brothers. Yeah, they're building some sort of contraption that flies through the air. It's never going to take off. Just leave that thing alone. You know how many times the Wright brothers was trying to take flight? And they failed until they actually finally did it. Remember all those people that probably told them, hey, listen, Wright, what are you doing over? Just leave that alone. It's a loss, right? And here it is. We have flights that's going all around the world, hundreds and hundreds of flights that's going all over the world. It's connecting countries, and where it took like months and months to get to, say, Europe or Africa, now it takes 10 to 12 hours. Can you imagine that? Hopping on a boat and take 3 months to get from point A to point B. And next thing you know, the technology has allowed us today to take 10 to 12 hours where it took months. You can go to sleep on a plane and wake up in the next country. So yeah, that's crazy. All right, so this other thing is going on. Where am I at with this time? All right, so last thing I'm going to talk about. Yo, quick, SSD drives. Anybody got SSD drives that need them? It's time to get them. Time to get it, man. So Western Digital and his partner Kioxia, Kioxia, somehow they corrupted and contaminated 7 million terabytes of non-memory. That's 7 million terabytes. That's a whole lot of data that they corrupted. And because they corrupted that, they say 35%, they service 35% of the global memory. And because they corrupted this, they're going to raise prices on these solid state flash drives. And they're saying actually, once the final tabulation is coming, they're saying it's going to be at a loss at 14 exabytes. Now, goddamn, look that up. 14 exabytes. So somehow that's what the article said, they messed up, and because of this mess up, they're going to have to raise prices temporarily on the solid state drives. And plus, they said it takes about 2-3 months to make a fully functioning chip. So I encourage people to get their chips now. It's crazy. Now, the funny thing is, they're saying that, the flash storage market was not affected by inflation and supply chain issues. For some reason, it wasn't. Out of all these other products that are flying all over the place, the flash storage market wasn't suffering from it. But this is the other funny thing. They're saying that other flash vendors are going to raise their prices as well, right along with WDC, which is, like I said, Western Digital, for no reason. I'm like, wait a second. Why are they raising their prices? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. So they're saying that they corrupted all this data and they got to raise prices temporarily. Keep a watch out on that. If they raise prices and then don't drop, because I don't understand why these other flash vendors are doing the same thing. Why are they raising prices? They're not, anyway. Yeah, that's crazy. And last thing before I get out of here. So Mayor Adams is proposing that schools will excuse, sorry, let me drink some. They said that Mayor Adams is putting together a proposal that schools with lower enrollment will lose funding. They said it could potentially amount to $250 million in cuts to the school budget next year. Unfortunately, these schools suffered from lower enrollment because of the pandemic. So I don't understand why that they that the budgets have to get cut for obvious reasons for the lower enrollment was because of the pandemic. I'm sorry. So the plan is to offer federal stimulus to the schools that are targets of this budget cuts, and of course, much smaller in comparison to what they want to cut. So just check this out. They say initially the city is going to reduce funding to schools by $375 million next fiscal year, but they will resupply it with $160 million in federal stimulus funds, which would bring it to a $215 million loss. The following year would be another $375 million, but will be offset with an $80 million stimulus, federal stimulus, that's going to really result in a $295 million loss. So the full cut in 3 years out would amount to a total of $375 million to the Department of Education budget because of this lower enrollment. And this cut, they're saying, is because it's a part of some program called PEG. It's called Program to Eliminate the Gap, to reduce city agency spending by 3%. Now, there's also, on top of this, hear this out, there's also in New York City, so all my New York City people listen up, there's also going to be a $57 million cut towards, as they say, quote, central and admin salary, as well as professional development, equipment, and supplies and all that. Amazing. PS9 in Brooklyn is saying they want to have to eliminate reading intervention and after school programs because of these cuts that are being proposed by Mayor Eric Adams. Now, all this is preliminary, and they said it could be subject to change once the city council reviews it and they counter it, and then he'll come with a final budget that's going to drop around June, just before the fiscal year starts in July 1st. But I see that's so problematic. I see that as being so problematic. Problematic because you're setting up all these underfunded schools, to me, means trouble. Because if you have all these budget cuts to salary, and it's going to take away equipment, it's going to take away all these other things that are necessary for you to have a quality learning environment for the children, for these young kids, to me, it's only going to, at the end of the day, the kids are going to suffer. And that's where you're going to have mischievous behavior. And if you go, which also goes along with zero tolerance, because of this mischievous behavior. And then what does that sound like? Just a quick, what does that sound like? Let me just close this out. What does that sound like to you? It sounds like a school to prison pipeline scenario. That's what it sounds like to me. Because if you're going to underfund these schools, if you're not going to give these kids a proper educational experience, if you have teachers that are mad because they're going to be, they're not going to be given proper salaries, or certain positions are just going to be cut out, and all equipment and everything else that goes along, that's going to be eliminated from these budget cuts. Now you're going to have kids are going to suffer at the end of the day. And you have a lot of police, NYPD, that's actual security in these schools. Now, of course, these kids are going to get wrapped up in it. There's no after school programs. The schools are suffering. Now you have NYPD is going to have zero tolerance. And you're going to shuffle these kids right into the prison system. You're going to deal with suspension and expulsion. These kids are going to be discouraged. You're going to get in all this kind of trouble. That sounds like a school to prison pipeline to me, because you're setting up the conditions for kids to be frustrated at the end of the day because they're not being properly handled. You already have frustrated teachers. They're not going to teach because they're not going to be given the things that they need in order to have a quality teaching exchange with the students. Now all of a sudden you have a slow boiling frog scenario that's going to take these schools to where you're going to create a school to prison pipeline for these children. Try to avoid this slow boiling frog. They're going to say, well, we're going to do these cuts, but don't worry, we're going to have some federal funding to kind of back that up, so it's not such a hard. Well, then why even cut it in the first place? We won't need that federal stimulus money if you don't cut the budget. So why even having to offer this federal stimulus money in the first place? Don't cut it. Just don't cut what we need. So now this is going to happen over a 3-4 year period. And all this frustration, and next thing you know, what are we doing? Now, on the upside, Mayor Eric Adams did set up something where you're going to have a summer program for over 100,000 jobs. Let's see how that goes, where the kids can get into a variety of different things, whether it's computer programming, it builds, proper behavior as far as, job behavior and all these things, all these learning things that kids need to keep their asses out of trouble. They can make some money and they can build the skills, the proper job skills for the jobs that they eventually will take as they get older. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. 100,000 jobs. I saw it. No problems. I will give props where props should be placed, where it's due. I get it. No problem. But now on the flip side, now you're going to cut you're going to cut the school budget. Till these kids got the jobs, now they're going to have to eventually go back to schools that are underfunded and unable to teach these kids the way they should be taught. And especially when we're talking about the problem kids that need a little extra help, they can't really get that. So I do have a problem where it's just, I don't know how, in what way I would put it, but you're doing good on one side, or all of a sudden you're taking away from another side. You do good over there, and you're taking away over here. It's this cat and mouse game, this peanut under the 3 cups situation where it's like, hey, I'm providing, but I'm taking. I'm providing, but I'm taking. I'm providing, I'm taking. And it's like, no, man. If you really want to revitalize the city, the people that is most important, the people that are most important in order to revitalize the city is our youth. They're going to take over the jobs of tomorrow. They're going to eventually be the middle management. They're eventually going to be the CEOs and bosses of the businesses that they want to start tomorrow. So you have to start today and giving them the proper learning environment, give them everything that they need so we can pass the baton to them. That's what school is about, passing the baton. And we do them an injustice when we cut the school budget because we're just trying to figure out how we can shave here and shave there. But yet, hold on a second, we want to increase the budget for the NYPD. So now you have kids that are these wayward kids. These kids are going to get into trouble. They don't really care. We're not giving them what they need. They're going to, oh, great, we give them jobs. When the jobs go away, whatever the case may be, now all of a sudden, we are properly funding the police in order to grab up these kids on zero tolerance. And now we're going to fill up more jails like how we want to do in Rikers Island. So you can't take away here and add there and add there and take away. You got to sit down and say, okay, if you want to save the city money, save the city money across the board. Because all you are setting up is for New York to fail. Not just abruptly in your face. It's going to happen tomorrow, next month. It's the boiling frog scenario where you take a little and take a little. I'm not going to take much. All of a sudden, 3 or 4 years, we're continuously dealing with the same problem. And locking up people is not a long-term solution to try to revitalizing a city. We have to change the way we do things in this city, and not just in this city, but let the city be a shining example what other cities should do in order to bring revitalization, not just for the higher end, upper echelon folks in the higher tax bracket, but for the working class people, for the blue collar workers that want to raise their kids right here in this city that are not going anywhere. We can change if we do things a little differently. But when I step back and I see the big picture of what's happening, when all the talk that they're saying, hey man, New York is gonna come back, we're gonna bring tech back to New York. Especially after this pandemic, it's gonna be a stronger city than it was before, prior to the pandemic. And these are the things. Then you gotta step on the gas. And if you are having resistance, Mayor Eric Adams, you gotta talk to the people. Because if you're for the people, you have to talk to the people. If you're getting resistance, you gotta talk to them. And I encourage the people, if you feel there's something wrong with this situation, talk to your school. You got to talk to your council member. You better ring them off your hook, your city council, the people that you elected to support you, to back you whenever something is going down in this city. And you put them on Front Street. You talk to them. Your city council members in turn are supposed to talk to the mayor and say, hey man, that's not going down in my area. You can't do that. I'm not going to get reelected. They're not going to back me. And you got to stand, as far as city council members, behind the people that elected you. It's not just about voting. You got to stay on them every step of the way. As soon as they try to come with the bullshit of some new law that's going to destroy your city or bring your city to ruin over the years, you got to go in their face and be like, I did not elect you for this bullshit. Now, if we're going to change the city, this is what we must do. And don't stop. That's what I'm saying. The children of the future. All right? As what my beautiful sister said. Oh my God. You know what I'm thinking about. Well, there you go. Let them lead the way. You heard? So we got to do that. So, all right, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I rambled on enough for you guys. Hopefully I didn't peak this thing too much. I'm gonna listen to it. If it peaks, it is what it is. Then I guess I got to get a new mic. I don't know. It is what it is. So thank you for listening to me, guys. I'll see you guys next week, and have a safe, healthy, and productive week. The rest of the week, whatever it is. You know what I mean. All right, folks. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com for the global community.
We worldwide, baby.
See you in the next go round. From right here to your town, we out.